Good evening, race fans, and welcome back to Season 19 of the Attrition Sim Race Campus Oval Series presented by SM Racing Products. Tonight here for round number 5 of the season at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. Finally, at one of these bigger tracks here for these drivers. Of course, not quite the biggest one on the schedule, but something a little bit bigger than the short tracks we have been running these last couple of weeks here. Of course, coming in at 1.5 miles in length or 2.41 kilometers for those of y'all who use the metric system. This track's been a part of NASCAR history pretty much as long as NASCAR has been around. Opened all the way back up in 1960 and has been hosting races ever since. And I'll tell you what, it's a huge part of ASRC racing history here as well. This is going to be the 35th time that the league has visited this track since 2017. 12th time that it's been here with the actual ASRC Oval Series, and in those 11 races that we have held prior, we have had 10 different winners at this speedway. Of course, that's in all of its configurations, both in the current big NASCAR Oval, the previous version of the NASCAR Oval all the way back in 2008, the road course that was ran a couple of times here in the Oval Series, and the Legends Oval. And of those 10 drivers, Brian Sabelski is the only one that is a repeat winner here for the Oval Series. But joining him in the winning list, we have Charles Cruz, Garrett Hess, Brad Ringer, Stephen Rex, Jason Mong, Garrett Streets, Derek Murphy, Odyssey Adams Jr., and Kevin West. So a very storied winners list here at this speedway, and with 13 drivers making their way out to the starting grid here tonight, I'm sure it's bound to be a very exciting one to see if any of these drivers can match up with Sabelski for 2 wins, maybe etch their name in the record book for the first time here tonight, or maybe Sabelski will be able to get win number 3, because take a look down there, he is starting out on the front row. And talking about that, how about we take a look down at our starting grid for today's event. Starting out on the pole here in the number 12 machine, that's going to be none other than Garrett Hess in that returning fire entry, driver out of Mechanicsville, Maryland. He's a multi-time champion here in the ASRC Oval Series and a winner already here in season number 19. He's going to be starting out on the pole here. How about back in second, though, Brian Sabelski in that 85 Maconi Setup Shop entry. It's the driver we're talking about, the only one with 2 wins so far in the Oval Series at Charlotte Motor Speedway, and also a multi-time league champion. So great to see him out here. He's going to be starting off in position number 2. Back in third, it's going to be the number 45 Scooby-Doo entry of Mark Kluge there, followed by the number 4 Kinetic entry of Daniel Sparks, one of our Mooselander Canadian drivers here. Back in fifth is going to be the unsponsored number 78 of Derek Murphy, followed by a rookie driver here tonight in the WeatherTech entry, making their first ever start with the league. That's going to be Eduardo Muniz Jr. back in sixth. Then back in seventh, it's going to be the Hello Kitty entry out of Orlando, Florida. That's going to be Kevin Alicia back there, with league administrator Mr. Jason Gardner in the number 93 Omnicraft entry back in eighth. Then back in ninth in the 188, it's going to be the For the Hobby entry for Joshua Rudolph, with the Moosehead Logger number 42 of Michael Sparks back in 10th, our other Mooselander Canadian driver back there. Then back in 11th, it's going to be the Dirt TV driver out of Harmony Township, Pennsylvania. That's going to be Johnny Bell back there, followed by the CZ Robotics 24 of Corey Logan. Then rounding out the tail end of this 13-car field here tonight, it's going to be the Fried Chickens Motorsport number 712 of John Atkins. It's been a little while since we've gotten to scroll down that starting grid tower here, but the pace car is making the dive down the safety of pit lane. We are getting ready to go green flag racing here at Charlotte. And sure enough, green flag up in the air, just like that. We are rolling at Charlotte Motor Speedway. So far, so good. Looks like everyone's got a good start. Everyone got their cars up to speed here, and as we roar on down into turn number 1, hopefully everyone manages to keep things clean, and so far it's looking like everyone's doing all right. Garrett Hess off up into an early lead. Everyone else single filing it out for second on back to about 4th here. Then we got side by side for 5th and 6th. That's Jason Gardner and Mark Kluge. But coming out of turn number 4 and across the tri-oval, we've gotten 1 lap in the books under the green flag here tonight. Looking around the field, looks like a very fast set of drivers here. Everyone's pretty much all up under a blanket right now, with the exception of John Atkins, who looks like he has fallen back just a little bit, but otherwise 1st through 12th, all single filed nose to tail here, and we have 100 laps to complete at this 1.5-mile speedway. So this is going to be a little bit of a long one, so I think these drivers right now are just trying to settle into a rhythm, and hopefully things will work out in the long run for them. Definitely going to be seeing a lot of fuel strategy here tonight. Of course, assuming that we don't have a ton of cautions, but I mean, at a track like this where everyone's going as fast as they are, I feel like it's inevitable. At some point, there might be maybe a little bit of a bad push, but ASRC has been a very clean league, and it's been a very clean season so far. Not a lot of cautions here in season number 19, so we'll see if these drivers can take all their skills from the short tracks and make this intermediate speedway work for them here. So far, Garrett Hess has been up in the front, leading every single lap over Brian Sabelski and Daniel Sparks. Down to the bottom, Eduardo Muniz Jr. trying to make a move down on the inside of Daniel Sparks there. Side by side for the two of them. It looks like Daniel had a slight little scrape against the outside wall there. That's going to hurt his speed just a little bit, but not enough to let Eduardo make the pass here. still, like, it's all under a blanket, all the way back from first back to 12th. John Atkins, unfortunately, has lost the draft, so he might need a caution to make that back up. It looks like there might be a little bit of connection issues going on there for that number 28 machine, but no harm, no foul. He's back in the fight. Jason Gardner here getting some bumps from behind from the number 45 there, Mark Kluge, as he tries to hang on to the 5th position here. 2 by 2 behind him. Alicia on the bottom. Mark Kluge up on the top. Jason's going to go down low, try and hold it down the down through turns 1 and 2, but through 3 and 4, or down the back straightaway, he goes up on the high side, back down to the bottom into 3 and 4 here. Doing a good job of keeping both cars behind him here. It's certainly not easy to defend 2 lanes at once, but he's making it work there in that number 93 machine. We're only on lap number 7, though. We still have a long way left to go here in tonight's event. So hopefully these drivers don't get a little bit too feisty with each other, because there is a very very long race left to go, and very easy at a track like this to end up with some hurt feelings and some broken race cars. I mean, let's take a look at the dashboard here for Kevin Alessia as he battles it out with Mark Kluge. He's going 185 miles an hour. Make that 190 going into the corner, and he's not even the fastest car on track right now. That is a recipe for disaster, even from the slightest little bit of a mistake. So, we'll see how things go right now, but it seems like it's becoming a little bit more of a hornet's nest the longer we go on here. I expect these drivers to single lap file out and just settle into a rhythm and just kind of have a relaxing evening drive, you know, 30, 40 laps or so before we start thinking about pit cycles. But no, everyone's just going at it. There is no chill here at Charlotte Motor Speedway, and certainly not in the ASRC Oval Series. Of course, presented by SM Racing Products. The lovely folks over there have been on board with the ASRC Oval Series for a couple years now. Always been great to have them as an affiliate. So hey, if you're ever in the mood for button boxes or other sim racing equipment, definitely be sure to give them a look-see. That is sm-racingproducts.com. Several of our drivers are spinning around right now is what they're doing. Caution flag is out on the speedway. That's a massive impact. I'm counting 4. Oh, slow down. Oh, well, make that another one. Oh, that's going to be caution flag number 1 out here on the speedway, and unfortunately, it is a bad one. Kevin Alessia looks like he got the worst of the brunt of it. Definitely some damage on Jason Gardner's cars there. Joshua Rudolph sparks coming out the bottom. And Mark Kluge, not really any visible damage, but he is crab walking that number 45 like something fierce. I think he should keep it out. I think he should race like that. That looks cool. 45 degrees is faster than going straight, probably. Ooh, that's a bad crap walk. How about we take a look back here and see what all went down to bring out this caution flag, though. From what I could tell, it had started initially here with Jason Gardner. Down on the bottom, down the inside of him, you see the number 7 machine of Kevin Alessia. And we're going to break out the slow-mo cam here for this one. And sure enough, just kind of comes together going down through, that was turn number 3. Gardner spins around, comes back up the track, collects the 45. That looks like that was some net code involved there. There wasn't really any contact there. There's the 188 of Joshua Rudolph involved here as well, as Gardner just gets flung around. A massive impact for Kevin Alessia there. That rips the front bumper off of it for him. And then I think I saw John Atkins get involved in that caution later in the going as well, as we bring it back up to full speed here. Not too bad of an impact for John Atkins. So we'll take one more look back at this. We're going to get a bit of a zoomed out view here at full speed for this incident. And what a nasty one to start this race off with. Like I said, you're going 190 miles an hour. All it takes is one little slip up for a whole lot of broken race cars and a whole lot of hurt feelings here tonight. Taking a look around the field, nobody has come down pit lane except for the drivers who were involved in that incident. Honestly, All right, a little bit of technical difficulties there, but we just took the green flag here once again, so mostly we were pretty much under caution right up until the green flag came back out there. Garrett Hess continuing to lead the field. We have 5 drivers still down on pit lane who got possibly race-ending damage from that incident, unfortunately. We will have to see if any of them are able to make it back out, but right now, 15 laps in the books. Garrett Hess continues to lead the field. Savelski and Muniz battling it out here for position number 2. And looks like Muniz kind of on the preferred line here in that number 28 machine, but Savelski is doing a good job of holding on the high line here for the time being. Big moves coming from Johnny Bell back in 5th, trying to get around Daniel Sparks there, almost up on the outside wall. Fortunately, didn't collect it there, but was a little bit scary there just for the time being. And with that caution as well, John Atkins, unfortunately, is down on pit lane. Corey Logan bunched back up with the field here just a little bit, but it does look like they are slowly starting to lose them here a little bit. Call it about a minute, or not a minute, a minute would be very bad. No, about a second and a half behind for the driver of that number 24 machine, but they are still on the lead laps, so plenty of opportunity to get back up in this battle. But now it is single filed out. I think everyone has perhaps realize the consequences of their actions of getting a little bit too aggressive with each other in the early goings of this one. Well, I say that Johnny Bell again sent it in real deep, coming in hot behind that number 4 machine. Fortunately, able to get that car slowed down to keep from smacking into the back of him. But every time they go into the corner, it looks like Johnny is primed to give that number 4 machine a little bit of a nudge here. Side by side, a little bit further back, as Michael Sparks was starting to make the move down the inside of Derek Murphy there. Unfortunately, not able to make it stick. I think really at this point, now that we've had that massive incident, we're going to see these drivers be a little bit more patient with each other. We are getting some reports here that Jason Gardner in that number 93 has retired from tonight's event. That car is not going to be able to get fixed and get back out here on the speedway. No word from the other drivers involved yet. John Atkins looks like he has retired. As far as I can tell, Kevin Alessia and Mark Kluge are still getting their cars serviced, so we might see them come back out on track, but definitely Jason Gardner and John Atkins are out of the cars for tonight. And it looks like Joshua Rudolph may be out of the car here as well. Savelski, a little bit of a wiggle there, but he's going to try and make the move down to the inside of Garrett Hess, heading down to turns 3 and 4 here. Neck and neck, and this might be our first change that we see for the race lead here tonight, depending on how the scoring is across the line. Hess is still going to have the advantage, so he is still going to be scored as the race leader for the time being. Eduardo Muniz trying to follow through up on the high line as well, work with Garrett Hess, and there's contact between the two of them. That was almost very bad, but fortunately both of these drivers managed to hang on to it. It's, again, huge moves down to the inside out of these drivers. Daniel Sparks gets the move on Savelski down on the bottom. That was quite the send there by that number 4 machine, and now he's getting a little bit wiggly, which is a tad bit scary to see, but everyone's keeping it pointed in the right direction, and that is always the best course of action here. Literally not even like 2 laps ago, I was like, oh, everyone's learned their lessons, and they're going to be patient with each other for a while, and make their mad dashes in like 20, 30 laps. Nope, they're full sending it again. It is once again a little bit of a hornet's nest here at Charlotte. Savelski was contesting for the lead and went all the way back to 4th in a single lap. Now he's going to try and start making some moves back up towards the front in that number 85 machine. He's going to get around Daniel Sparks up there on the high line, but not quite able to clear him. Still neck and neck, and of course Savelski right now is on the bottom basically by himself all the way down the back straightaway, so he doesn't have any draft to help him at all. But he seems pretty good on corner exit, just sucking back up to the rear bumper of that 4 machine. It's just a matter of figuring out how to get around him. Corey Logan still running out there. Looks like, unfortunately, about 7 seconds behind. That just shows to show how detrimental it is to lose the draft here. It just, obviously, I mean, it's not Daytona, it's not Talladega, but in these lower-powered ARCA cars, I mean, even at the intermediate speedways, drafting is a massive deal. And it looks like Sparks got into the outside wall there a little bit going into the tri-oval, so that's going to cost him a little bit of speed there. Again, Sabelski tried to make the move down the inside, but not quite able to here. Still neck and neck between these two drivers as Eduardo Muniz Jr. runs in the second position. And that WeatherTech 28 driver is a driver we're definitely going to have to keep an eye on throughout tonight's event, because again, first ever start here in ASRC, and he is currently contesting for the race lead with a multi-time league champion right in front of him and a multi-time league champion right behind him. Definitely quite the hot seat to be in your first ever league start. Sparks in that 4 machine up there still looking a little bit loose, a little bit wobbly through the corners here, particularly on corner exit. And again, I saw a little bit of sparks there, maybe a slight little scrape against the outside wall. But it doesn't seem like that 4 machine is handling. I mean, it's definitely got speed, but something about it doesn't seem like it's handling quite the way he wants it to. How about we take a moment? Let's ride on board here with our multi-time champion, Mr. Brian Sabelski. Let's get a view on board and see what it's like ripping around the Charlotte Motor Speedway here in these ARCA cars. Always a good day to be ripping these cars around this speedway at nearly 190 miles an hour at times. We did have some changes in position there when we were riding on board with Brian Sabelski. Eduardo Muniz Jr. up here in the 28 machine got a little bit loose, had a little bit of contact together with Daniel Sparks. Both of them lost position there. Now Brian Sabelski has pulled up to a full second lead over the two of them. And not only that, but Garrett Hess has a second, almost a second and a half of a lead over Sabelski himself. So now things are really strung out here for our race lead for the time being. The main battle on the speedway is these 3 cars for 3rd back through 5th. Eduardo Muniz, Daniel Sparks, and Johnny Bell here. All nose to tail, pretty similar speeds with each other. When they come back around through the front straightaway here, we'll take a look at their lap timings here and see how things are checking out, but I expect it's going to be pretty much right on top of each other. Going to be a 38.38 for Eduardo Muniz Jr., a 36.5 for Daniel Sparks, a 35.4 for Johnny Bell. So really right on top of each other there. Our three front runners is going to be a 33.1, a 33.8, and another 33.8. So at these high speeds, especially at these drafting tracks, it really does kind of just end up being, big smack against the outside wall there for the 27 of Johnny Bell, but it fortunately looks like he's okay. No big damage on that car. At these drafting tracks, really, the lap times are pretty much all identical with each other. As long as you can manage to stay in the draft, that is pretty much the biggest equalizer here. Particularly with these fixed setups, everyone is running the same suspension settings, all of the same mechanical options underneath the hood here. So a lot of it is coming down into your cornering and just hoping that you don't get broken away from the draft here. We do have some drivers back out on track. That 7 machine of Kevin Alessia is back out on the speedway here, currently being scored 17 laps down. But he is back out there. There is plenty of opportunity for another big one to happen and other drivers to end up more than 17 laps down. So definitely great to see at least one of these drivers get back out on the track and at least have an opportunity to potentially make some spots back up. We'll have to see what happens, but the opportunity is there. And if nothing else, more seat time is always a good thing for these drivers. Every lap you turn, you learn something a little bit new. You get a little bit better at driving these cars. And Kevin Alessia, he's been very competitive here this season, but this is only his second ever season of competition in the ASRC Oval Series, full-time anyways. So, for these newer drivers in particular, it is definitely great. Even if you are 17 laps down, 8 minutes behind the rest of the field, it's good to get back out on track, get that extra experience under your belt, and have something to take with you into the next race. Corey Logan coming out of pit lane here, it looks like. It's potentially some damage on the side of that car, but they are back out on the track and currently being scored 2 laps down. Of course, there is always a lucky dog. Should a caution flag come out, whichever driver is the first car a lap down will be given a lap back. So it is certainly not out of the picture for Corey Logan to potentially be put back on the lead lap here, depending on how the rest of this race plays out. But that said, everyone is very spread out right now, with the exception of Johnny Bell and Daniel Sparks. You pull up the track map here, you can see everyone has at least a full second of distance between each other, if not more. Besides these two drivers we are watching right here battling it out for the 4th position, Daniel Sparks and Johnny Bell. And Johnny also is the most improved driver of the race right now, up +6 positions from where he qualified. And I don't know, he might start trying to put the moves here on that 4 machine of Daniel Sparks. That might just see Johnny Bell up be +7 from where he started. Gaps closed down to about 0.2 of a second between the two of them, but it's so neck and neck with each other. Making the pass is going to be difficult. But he's going to go for it heading down the back straightaway here. He's got the nose down the inside. That's going to force Daniel Sparks to stay up high. But he's not quite going to have the momentum to keep it there. And sure enough, coming out of turn 4, he's going to have to get back in line, try and set up another run. We're probably going to see him stay in line with him here through turns 1 and 2 and try it again down the back straightaway, but he might not be close enough here to actually make it happen. But right now, it's more than 0.2 of a second of a gap here, and he is closing it back up, but no, he's not going to be close enough to try and make a move down in there this time around. But as we near the halfway point of tonight's race, we might see these drivers start to consider making some stops down on pit lane. Nobody's going to be able to make it to the end on fuel, that much is for sure, and probably going to be seeing fresh tires being put on all these race cars as well. Important to note, all the drivers that are still on the lead lap have not come to pit lane at all in tonight's race. They did not stop under the caution. They did not stop at all so far. Corey Logan did come down on lap number 35, and that is what has put them 2 laps down right now. But otherwise, everyone else definitely still due for a fuel stop sometime. Probably, if I had to guess, within the next probably 10 to 15 laps. But of course, I could be mistaken on that. I could just be making up words. You never quite know here with the ASRC Oval Series. All these drivers managed to find out a way to throw a curveball for me, race in and race out. But coming into tonight's event, taking a look down at the point standings here, Garrett Hess, who is our current race leader, is the current championship points leader with 62 points to his name, 2 wins so far here this season. Then back in second in the points actually is the driver we're looking at right now in that 27 machine. That is Johnny Bell, who is 16 points back overall with 46 to his name. Then in third, we have Daniel Sparks with 41 points. Brian Sabelski back in fourth, and that's a 3-way tie for fourth right now between Brian Sabelski in second, Jason Gardner, who was unfortunately wrecked out and retired from tonight's event, and Kevin Alessia back in ninth, who was 17 laps down. So if nothing else, we know that after this race, Kevin Alessia and Brian Sabelski will be going up over Jason Gardner to break that tie between them. Then back in seventh is Joshua Rudolph, who is also involved in that incident, as well as Mark Kluge. So both of those drivers are out of tonight's event. Then back in ninth in the point standings, it's Derek Murphy, who is still out on the raceway. So that should be a good points night for him. Same with Corey Logan, back in 10th right now. And of course, this is only race 5 of the season. 12 races the total, as usual, here with the ASRC Oval Series. And hang on to it there. Almost a little bit of contact there between Johnny and Daniel going through the tri-oval. But Johnny, again, backs out of it. Not wanting anything to do with that, at least for the time being. But the gap has grown ever further for our race leaders. Garrett Hess has a lead of 2 seconds right now over Brian Sabelski, who has another 2-second lead over Eduardo Muniz Jr. in third. Then it's this battle between Johnny Bell and Daniel Sparks, 2 seconds back from the third position, and Johnny is going to make the pass happen here. He's going to work his way up to fourth and be up +7 from where he started right now. Of course, looking around the field here, Garrett Hess, our race leader, has led every single lap so far here tonight and is just having a nice evening Monday drive. Not much is going through his head right now. He's just vibing. He's having a grand old time right now in that number 12 machine. He's running where he qualified. Pretty quiet evening for him. Back in second, Brian Sabelski also running where he qualified, and while he's probably a little sad that he's lost the draft to that 12 machine and is now 2 seconds behind, he's probably very happy that he doesn't have a swarm of 12 people riding his bumper anymore like he did at the start of this race. So right now, Sabelski actually, I'm talking about him, he's going to make the call to come on down pit lane. He's going to be the first taker in the field of drivers on the lead lap. We'll see if anyone decides to come down with him. The answer is no. Everybody else staying out on the speedway. So that'll bump Sabelski back down to 6th. This is the lowest he's dropped all race, but of course that's just how the pit cycle is. Inevitably, all these other cars are going to have to come down too, and he should get some spots back off of that. Now we see Eduardo Muniz coming down on the pit lane. Garrett Hess still stays out. Johnny Bell still stays out. Daniel Sparks still stays out. Here comes Derek Murphy, who is sending it a little bit far into there and scraping against the outside wall, but fortunately he did not hit the actual wall itself head on. That could have been disastrous for him. Just a little bit hot coming on the pit lane for that 78 machine. But just like that, Sabelski makes his way back out onto the speedway. A 14-second stop for him, so that probably was tires and fuel on that number 85 machine. Now our race leader of Garrett Hess is coming down, and that will cycle Johnny Bell around to being our race leader for the first time here this evening. There is bonus points up for grabs for leading at least 1 lap in a race, so sometimes just staying out during the pit cycle to say that you've led at least one lap for the bonus point is a good strategy option. As Johnny works his way around the speedway, I'd imagine he's going to stay out for another lap just to secure it. Yes, he is. He's going to stay out. Daniel Sparks probably doing the same thing. Now he's waiting for Johnny to come down to pit lane so he can pick up a bonus point for leading at least one lap here tonight. But they might have to act fast, because here is Garrett Hess coming out of pit lane, coming back out on the speedway right now in that 12 machine. It's not going to be particularly long until he gets himself unlapped here. And just behind, here comes Brian Sabelski. He has closed the gap on pit lane just a little bit, now down to a 1.1 second gap, which still is, you know, more than maybe he'd like, but he does have that 7 machine of Kevin Alessia just in front of him. Kevin, again, 17 laps down right now, and he's going to pull down the bottom of the track to get out of Sabelski's way. But that's going to give Sabelski just a little bit of a draft to try and catch up to Garrett Hess here. And now we're going to see Daniel Sparks come down pit lane. He's calling his bluff. He's not going to wait for Johnny Bell any longer. He's going to forfeit the opportunity to try and get a bonus point for a lap led and go ahead and make his stop. So now that leaves just Johnny Bell as the only driver left that still needs to stop here tonight. We'll see how the lap times look for him, but I mean, Garrett Hess is right there about to unlap himself. A 39.4 for Johnny Bell, a 29.6 for Garrett Hess. So that goes to show just how much of a speed difference there is on these new tires versus the old ones. I would imagine we're going to see Johnny pit sometime here soon, because obviously he needs fuel. And aside from that, with the tire wear the way it is, I don't think he's going to be able to lead this race for the whole way through. I think Garrett Hess is going to manage to close up this 30-second gap he has behind Johnny Bell. Sabelski back here in second. Still a 1 second gap between the two of them. Generally, it's right around 0.7 of a second to 0.8 of a second is where you start to pick the draft up. So if Sabelski can just close about 0.3 of a second here on Garrett Hess, he should get this draft back going, and he should be able to catch up to that 12 machine and battle with him for the race lead. But of course, still got 42 laps left to go. There is plenty of racing left here tonight, and plenty of opportunity for things to potentially go wrong here for these drivers. It does look like Johnny Bell is going to go ahead and make his call to come on down pit lane, so that will be the end of this here pit cycle, and that will cycle Garrett Hess back around to being our race leader. Brian Sabelski 1.1 second back. Then it's going to be a full 5 seconds further behind for Eduardo Munez Jr. back in third. And then it's just kind of all over the place. Michael Sparks is currently 9-10 seconds back from our top 3 drivers. Johnny Bell is making his way back out on the speedway, trying to get up to speed, but Sparks has already pulled up to a 3.5 second gap on Bell coming out pit lane, so I'm not sure he's going to be able to make that back up. But Logan now only 1 lap down, and Derek Murphy went a lap down on that pit stop. That was a nearly full minute pit stop for that 78 machine, so definitely maybe some damage on that car they found that they had to repair, but 50 seconds is not how long it's normal for these cars to be down on pit lane. So that has put Derek Murphy, excuse me, a lap down here. I believe there's 5 drivers left on the lead lap with 40 laps here to go at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. At this point, I think this is just going to be a test of these drivers' endurance, who can keep the pace going without burning off these tires completely in these next 40 laps. Because realistically speaking, I don't think the chances are very high that there's going to be any more incidents here tonight. With how spread out the field has got, in theory, everyone will be keeping their cars pointed in the right direction here. Sabelski's still running about a 1.2 second gap between himself and Garrett Hess. So, I mean, he's equally paced here with Hess, just about, but it's not enough to get the draft going. And without the draft, unless Hess makes a substantial mistake of some sort, I'm not sure that he's going to be able to catch back up here. We do see a pass for position, though. Derek Murphy going down beneath the 24 of Corey Logan, who is running a little bit off the pace right now in that 24. That was a pass for the lucky dog spot, so now should a caution flag come out, Derek Murphy will be given a free lap back, and he will be put back on the lead lap. Of course, that is depending on if there's a caution, and obviously if Derek Murphy brings that caution out, then he will not be given that bonus, so we will just have to see here. But right now, looking like a pretty quiet evening for all of these ARCA drivers. And I know this is just an entirely out-of-pocket fact that I noticed here. We are now 5 races in to season number 19 of the ASRC Oval Series. So far here this season, we've had 13 different drivers, and Eduardo Munez Jr. now makes 14 different drivers that we have had appear in the ASRC Oval Series here this season. Despite the fact that there are 3 different car options to choose from, the Ford, the Chevy, and the Toyota, there's not been a single Toyota here in the ASRC Oval Series at all in these last 5 races. Everyone is driving either a Ford or a Chevy. And right now the distribution is actually pretty even across the field if we look at the manufacturers here. Garrett Hess leads the field for Ford, but our next Ford's all the way back in 6th, not even on the lead lap. It's Chevy's all the way down the rest of the top 5. But no Toyotas. Nobody wants to drive the Toyota in the ASRC Oval Series, apparently. And honestly, none of us really have a good answer to why. I've gone around, I've asked these drivers why there seems to be an aversion to driving the Toyota. Nobody really has a good answer other than that they just liked how the Ford or the Chevy looked more than they liked how the Toyota looked. But looky there as we come across the start-finish line here. 2/3 of the way through tonight's event, 33 laps to go here at Charlotte before we crown ourselves another winner here. Things are still looking mighty spread out here tonight. But Garrett Hess, I mean, he's his current points leader right now, 2 wins to his name, looking like he's going for win number 3 right now. There is one drop week here in the Oval Series, so should a driver have a bad race, or maybe they're just not able to come out and attend, at the end of the season, every driver will have their one worst race deleted off their record. So the points champion will go to whoever has the most points from everyone's best 11 finishes. So far, Garrett really hasn't quite had a bad race that he's needed to drop it all. Like, he's been running very consistently here this season. 3 top 5s to his name, so only 1 race where he didn't have a top 5. And I believe that was back at the at Daytona. Back towards the start of the season, he had a 6th place finish, but otherwise it's been top 5s all around for Garrett Hess. He is having a very solid season here so far. And actually, it looks like Garrett and Johnny Bell are the only 2 drivers that have run every single lap here this season. They're the only 2 drivers that have finished on the lead lap of every single race, which is kind of crazy to think about. Because like I was saying, there's not really all that many incidents here in the ASRC Oval Series, but sure enough. But speaking of Johnny Bell, is one of our only 2 drivers that has gone every race on the lead lap. He's battling out here with Michael Sparks in that 42 Moosehead Logger entry. This is a battle for position for the 4th spot. Just behind in that Hello Kitty number 7 machine, that of course is Kevin Alessia, who is not a part of this battle. He's not on the lead lap right now. But he is certainly a spectator for it. It's down to about 0.3 of a second between Michael and Johnny. Michael run a little bit of a higher line through the corner than Johnny Bell is here, but the gap is still staying the same between the two of them, so it seems like not all too crazy much of a difference between the high line and the low line. Generally, the low line is preferred just because it's the shorter way around the track, but on the high line, you can keep the throttle in a little bit more and sometimes get a better run out of the corner going down the straightaways here. He's still, Michael running the top line all the way up against the outside wall. Johnny Bell keeping it low down to the apron as he can here. But it's closed up to 0.2 of a second between the two of them just through the draft. So Johnny, we might see him try and start to make some moves here shortly. Maybe not through the tri-oval, but I'd imagine maybe down the back straightaway we might see him try to make a move here on Michael Sparks and get back up into the 4th position. Something to consider too, Michael Sparks is on 13 lap older tires than Johnny is here as well, so a bit more worn down on that Moosehead Logger entry, and that will be hurting his top speed just a little bit here. But even then, he's still managing to keep Johnny at bay. It's still staying pretty comfortably at about 0.3 of a second. And that time by, Johnny actually losing a decent bit of speed there in that 27 machine, so maybe the tire deficit isn't quite as bad. Maybe I'm giving more credit than is needed for the 13 lap deficit between their two tires. Daniel Sparks is down on pit lane though in that number 4 machine. I don't know why it didn't occur to me until now that he's been down there, but he's been down on pit lane for a while now, and it looks like they're getting damage fixed on that number 4 machine. Still 0.3 of a second the difference in this battle between these two drivers. How about we get a top-down view of this little battle they've got going on here? Get a better idea of just how close they're getting nose to tail with each other at some of these instances. Within 25 laps to go though, so we are in the closing chapter of tonight's event. And right now things are just as spread out as ever. Everyone's just kind of trying to run their race, and some of them probably hoping that a caution will come out and this field will get bunched back up, and that might be their opportunity to get a win. But otherwise, I mean, without Garrett Hess and Brian Sabelski making some pretty drastic mistakes or a caution flag applying, I mean, it's not going to be possible for these drivers to make up a 15-second deficit to the race leader. Not without something going very, very wrong for him. Johnny now having it down below 0.2 of a second for the first time in probably the last 5 to 10 laps here. Not close enough to make a move happen. He's actually going to lose some ground on corner entry here. It looks like maybe drafting a little bit too much, carrying too much speed into the corner more than he intends when he's in the draft here, and then he has to lift off a little bit just to get that car to rotate how he needs it to. Coming across the line there, a 38.8 for Michael Sparks, a 39.6 for Johnny Bell. So Johnny's actually going a little bit slower per lap than Michael Sparks is here, even though that gap between the two of them really isn't changing all that much. And just like that, he closes back up by almost a full 0.2 of a second there. It's definitely starting to seem like the outside line's just working a little bit better for Michael than the inside line is for Johnny. Coming down the back straightaway here, this is going to be a good opportunity for him to close that gap up And I say that, and I lie. This time Michael has to get a little bit on the brakes. He has to lift off to get that car slowed down. He carried too much speed in. Now Johnny makes the move down to the inside. And that is going to bump him up here to the 4th position. But no, he loses all that speed on corner entry. Now Michael is going to be the driver with the advantage here. He's back up in 4th just like that. It was a short-lived victory for Johnny Bell there, because now they're back to the same deficit they had just moments ago, about 0.2 of a second here roughly. Pretty good battling here between these two drivers, very equally matched with each other. And I imagine the two of them are probably going to be at each other like this for these final 18 laps here tonight. Kevin Alessia still just kind of cruising behind. And it's like I said, I mean, some of these drivers had bigger incidents than Alessia, and even though he's 17 laps down, he has made a couple of spots back just from other drivers having mechanical issues. Of course, now we cross the line. Going to be 16 to go here for our race leader here in just a second. And at that rate, even if somebody wrecked out now, Kevin Alessia won't be passing them. So 8th is officially the best possible spot that Kevin can finish right now. And actually, looking around the field, Daniel Sparks is about 20 or 30 laps down right now. So Kevin Alessia, actually, it is not possible for Kevin Alessia to finish anywhere except the 8th position right now. That's where he will be finishing here. Once again, Johnny tries to make the move down to the inside. It works for just a little bit until the part where it doesn't, and Michael's gotten back around him once again here with 15 laps left to go. I think it could be anyone here in this battle between the two of them for the 4th position. It is definitely still anyone's game between these two drivers. Up at the front, Garrett Hess has pulled it away to a nearly 5-second lead now over Brian Zabelski, and Zabelski has a 5-second lead over Eduardo Muniz. Then it's a 26-second gap, or actually, no, that's just from the leader. It's a 17-second gap back from Eduardo Muniz to this battle between Johnny Bell and Michael Sparks. $14 laps left to go here at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. About 21 miles left in this competition. Sure enough, Garrett Hess has led every single lap except for during the pit cycle, and he seems to be sailing away to a pretty smooth victory here tonight. Again, barring should anything catastrophic happen in these next 13 laps, which is entirely possible for something to go wrong here. Hopefully it doesn't, but the fact of the matter in motorsports, there's always a little bit of an element of chaos here. And you just kind of have to do what you can to work with the randomness, work with the chaos, and hope that it works in your favor. Michael, again, going a little bit too hard in the corner, has to check up to keep from hitting the outside wall. That's going to allow Johnny to get around him, but will Johnny be able to actually hang on to it here this time? Because every time Johnny's made the move, he's lost it not too long later. And already Michael Sparks gotten it down to about 0.05 of a second. He comes up, tries to block. They're going to make contact with each other. Both cars very upset there, but they keep them both pointed in the right direction. That was a very risky move there. And it's still neck and neck between these two drivers. Michael is not losing this gap at all. Way up high on the high line there, almost in the outside wall, but he keeps it off there. Going to be side by side coming out of turn 2 here. Looks like Michael Sparks going to have the advantage coming down the back straightaway, but Johnny still has the nose down to the inside, still neck and neck, but now Johnny starts to lose that speed. But then Michael has the same issue. Now it's back to being side by side. Neither of these drivers can win with each other here. But as they cross the line, it's going to be the big double high five up in the air here. 10 laps left to go here at Charlotte Motor Speedway here tonight. And it is still anyone's game here in this battle for fourth. Everyone else seems pretty comfortably settled into where they're going to be finishing here tonight. But Michael Sparks, Johnny Bell, nuh-uh. Both these drivers' gloves have come off, and they are ready to metaphorically throw hands here in these race cars in these next 9 laps. Johnny back up to the front here of this battle for just a little bit. Michael still ripping the high line up there, not wanting to drop down low and try and follow through in the draft. And I mean, it seems to be working for him because now they're side by side once again coming out of turn number 2. 8 laps left to go. And neither of these drivers are given an inch. Just behind them is our race leader of Garrett Hess, by the way, who is about to lap both of these drivers. I'm sure Garrett is maybe a little bit nervous by all of this battling going on between these two, especially when they had that contact earlier on. That would have been absolutely disastrous if these two made contact with each other and then collected the race leader of Garrett Hess as well. But that's what I'm talking about. In the sport of racing, there's always that element of chaos and always an opportunity for things to go awry. Michael Sparks keeps up high, and he's now officially going to be put a lap down here by our race leader, Garrett Hess, and that has allowed Johnny Bell to pull up to a nearly second lead over Michael Sparks. So he's definitely gotten broken up here just a little bit, but Michael Sparks has fallen behind our race leader of Garrett Hess to get that draft and catch back up to Johnny. So this battle is not over yet here between these two. Still about 0.8 of a second between the two of them, and now Michael is starting to fall back just a bit here. The question is, will Garrett Hess lapping Johnny mess up his speed here at all? And it looks like yes, it is. Johnny goes up high to let the race leader go by, and now the gap has closed to within 0.5 of a second. That is enough for Michael Sparks to pick the draft back up. And in these final 5 laps, I'd imagine we're going to see him start to close the gap back up to Johnny Bell, at least just a little bit. That said, he tried running the low line there, and it doesn't seem like the low line's quite been working out for Michael. That's going to bump him up to a full 1.1 seconds behind Johnny Bell here. And with 4 laps left to go, that could entirely be all she wrote here. Now you see that 78 of Derek Murphy coming up from behind. Murphy not on the lead lap right now as Sparks has a little bit of a scrape against the outside wall there. But neither of these drivers battling for position right now. But I think they are the 2 closest cars on the raceway, just in proximity to each other, even if they're not battling here. But 3 laps left to go. Garrett Hess is your race leader. Johnny Bell still hot on his heels, but even if Johnny gets unlapped right now, looks like probably 4th is going to be the best that he's going to be able to finish here tonight. Not without the assistance of a caution. 2 laps left to go for our race leader of Garrett Hess, though. 3 more miles around this speedway. And really, he only has to get 1.5 in the books to make sure that caution flag won't come out, because after we throw the white, even if a nuclear bomb lands on this racetrack, we will not be throwing that caution. Heading through turns 3 and 4 now in that 12 machine, going down through the tri-oval. White flag is up in the air. Garrett Hess just has to have 1 more clean lap here tonight, and he will be good to go here. Brian Sabelski 6.5 seconds back. Eduardo Muniz Jr. another 6 seconds further than that. Garrett Hess is in the clear here tonight, heading down into turns 3 and 4 for the final time. And coming down the tri-oval, Garrett Hess going to be your race winner here at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. He will put his name in the record book as the only driver with 2 wins at this track in the Oval Series, along with Brian Sabelski. Talk about rookie driver. Eduardo Muniz going to be finishing back in 3rd as the last driver on the lead lap here. Johnny Bell back in 4th. Michael Sparks here rounding out your top 5 here this evening. Coming back down the front straightaway here, I imagine we're about to see Garrett Hess burn it down pretty dang well here in that 12 machine. Win number 3 on the season for him out of 5 races now on the books. And that'll be building up his points lead even further over Brian Sabelski here tonight. All right, race fans, don't go anywhere. We will be back here in just a moment with some words with your top 3 finishers here tonight. Alrighty, race fans, welcome back to the Charlotte Motor Speedway. 150 miles of competition in the books, and basically every single lap led except for under pit stops is going to be going to Mr. Garrett Hess as he takes home checkered flag number 3 here this season. Garrett, how are you feeling here tonight?
Feeling pretty good. Pretty good. The car drove great the entire race. So I came away with the win. Pretty happy about that.
All things considered, I'd say we can pretty safely say you went fast and you turned left. Things were pretty crazy at the start of this race, though. Were you planning to be leading the race as well as you did? And did you have any concerns with that whole hornet's nest that was behind you for the first quarter or so of the race?
Oh, I don't
Oh,
know if I just disconnected or something.
I think you might have there for a little bit.
Okay, internet died for a second. I don't know what happened right there. But anyways, what I was saying was, I think that since I got pole, I was gonna lead at least a little bit. Charlotte's a track where everyone can get really packed up until they aren't. So I kind of needed that separation to happen behind me, and it did when Daniel was a little aggressive on Eduardo, and that just split everyone past about the 0.6 second barrier where you can latch on to draft. So I just try to maintain Brian 6/10 or more behind me the entire race, and the car just it felt like it had unlimited grip, even pushing it harder on the second run after the first pit stop, because I would push the car to keep Brian at least more than a second behind me, and it just I know I was going slower, but it felt like I was going faster as the run went on.
Sure enough, there was definitely some pretty crazy battling going on back towards the mid pack there in those final couple laps. If we did end up having a late race caution, do you think you would have been able to hold off Sabelski?
It would have been tough. I would have definitely taken tires. I think everyone would have as well. But I mean, if there was a late race restart, it could have been anyone on the lead laps game, honestly. But I'm just lucky that a caution didn't come out, and the cards fell in my lap in my favor.
Sure enough, it worked out for you here tonight. And now you have this race win at an intermediate track in your back pocket for when we go back short tracking for 2 more weeks. How are you feeling about heading on over to Irwindale?
Irwindale is a track that I've raced very little. I know that the high side is the preferred line, kind of like IRP, but the lane is even smaller. But it'll definitely be interesting to see how that race pans out. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. It's definitely going to be a very tough race, but I'm looking forward to it. I'm always looking forward to these ASRC races. They're lots of fun.
Yeah, definitely. Always great seeing you out there. And of course, furthering your lead in the point standings even further here. So I think you have a very exciting season left to go ahead of you.
Yeah, especially with what happened last race, my points lead is I think now about a whole race, so I can I cannot be so anxious about the people behind me, but I still got to be mindful that there's drop weeks and everything, but I still got to be mindful that of the point situation week by week. But feeling pretty good about my hopes for another championship, and hoping for more good races down the line.
For sure. Definitely looking forward to seeing what you're going to be able to do here for the rest of season number 19. For now, though, the microphone is all yours, Mr. Hess. Who you want to thank for making everything happen here tonight?
Yeah, I want to thank everyone at Team Watson Racing. Great group of guys over there. If you want setups for pretty much any iRacing car, TeamWatsonRacingSetups.com. Want to thank Livewire for their great album Returning Fire, great speed thrash metal band from Australia. I want to thank Eduardo Muniz Jr. for showing up. Finally got him to show up to a race, and he came in third on this crappy plastic pedals that he has. But glad that he got a good finish. Want to thank everyone. Who did Marca again. That was a fun league before that died. And I want to thank you and Jason for putting on the show and making all this possible.
Good deal. Well, thank you for coming out here tonight, and congratulations on your win. And I look forward to seeing you next week.
Yes, sir. I'll see you then.
And finishing back here in position number 2, Mr. Brian Sabelski. You and Garrett were on a field of your own here tonight, but not quite able to pull out the checkered flag here this evening. How are you feeling?
Oh, a little sad I couldn't really get it back up there. But hey, it is what it is. Ain't gonna be too mad about all that stuff. I guess could be worse. Could be last week.
Yeah, coming into tonight's event, of course, at one of these bigger tracks, what was your mindset coming in tonight, and where were you expecting to be doing?
I was expecting to be running up front as long as I could stay out of people's trouble. Because it seems more likely than not that what happens is I just get caught up in someone else's mess or mistake or whatever. um, that's that's just that's just the way these things work sometimes. And hey, you just gotta kind of forget about it and move on to the next thing.
Fair enough. Still second in the point standings here coming into tonight's event. And next week, heading on over to the Irwindale Speedway and then Nashville Fairgrounds and IRP after that. So we're going back to another stretch of short trackings. How are you feeling about your odds there?
Pretty good. I like the short tracks in this car. I think that's probably where I do my best work. So um, hopefully we'll get to pull out a couple of nice results one way or another for next couple of weeks. And let's see how it all shakes out and hope for some good racing without a lot of incidents and stuff like that, because I really want to be able to race everybody and kind of have a good time doing it.
Sure enough. And just like I asked Garrett here tonight, there was a little bit of craziness going on in the middle of the pack towards the end of this race. Should that late race caution have come out, do you think you would have been able to get around him?
uh Maybe. I think it would have been tough. Garrett's always he defends really well, so like it's really tough to get by him. He's definitely pretty clean in that regard too. I usually don't have a problem with the way that he races like that. Um, yeah, he'll put his car somewhere where it makes it really difficult to get by. You just kind of have to, uh, hope for the best and not I was gonna say not just punt the guy out of the way because he's in the way. So it takes a while sometimes to get by, and I think everybody would have gone in for tires, so I don't think there would have been a difference in that regard. It would have just been kind of seeing if I could do what I didn't do early in the race, which I had a couple of times. I had really good runs and I could have shoved it inside and saw what happens, for better or for worse. But I'm not going to do that lap 5. It's too early and too silly for me to be trying that stuff.
Sure enough. Well, still a second place to your name here tonight. Still should be second in the point standings and still have the second half of the season to be looking forward to. But for now, the microphone is all yours, Mr. Sabelski. Who do you want to thank for making everything happen?
Yeah, of course. Thanks to everyone for being here tonight. Thanks to Jason for doing the league, for you for doing the broadcasting, and of course, we would be nowhere without our many sponsors. McConey Setup Shop, official setup shop at NASCAR. SM Racing Products, love them. They do great work. Dragon Rose Coffee, awesome local company. It does a lot of really cool stuff. 10% off your orders if you put the Hound Tiger as your coupon code. Wink, wink. Yeah, man, everyone hanging out on Twitch. Good to have you here. So yeah, hopefully looking for. I was gonna say, hopefully gonna have a lot of good days ahead and a lot of good racing, and we'll see how this all shakes out.
Good deal. Well, thank you for coming out here tonight. Congratulations on the second place finish here tonight, and I look forward to seeing you next week at Irwindale.
Thank you.
And finishing back here in position number 3, first ever start here with the ASRC Oval Series, and you're contending up with multi-time championships drivers and getting a podium to your name. Mr. Eduardo Muniz Jr., how are you feeling here tonight?
Feeling pretty good. I didn't really know what to expect coming into this race because I'm not really that experienced with the ARCA car, but it was a really fun race, especially those first few laps. Had some contact there with the number 4. I think I would have been able to make a challenge for the lead, maybe for second spot, but we got into the wall there, and it was kind of a uphill battle from that point. And then we kind of had a slow pit stop, so kind of just gridlocked us at third, but I can't complain. It was a really good race.
Good deal. Yeah, definitely great to see new drivers coming out here and being able to contend with the veterans here. And of course, I mean, this is your first ever race with the league, but looking around the field, seeing how you did here tonight, how are you feeling about your odds going into future races?
Definitely pretty confident now that I know that I have the speed to contend for podiums, wins. Definitely looking forward to attending more races and seeing what I can do.
Good deal. Definitely good to see it out here. Of course, going on a stretch of short tracks here for these next couple of weeks. How are you feeling about your general confidence on these tiny tracks?
Yeah, it's gonna be difficult because I don't have the best equipment at the moment, but a bit of practice can go a long way. I practiced the night before this race just to get my feet wet with Charlotte and stuff. I have done well at short tracks before, but there's some tracks like Bristol and some of the high bank tracks that I tend to struggle with. But I'm willing to put my foot forward and practice enough, try to get a good finish no matter what happens.
Good deal. I definitely think folks will be having to keep an eye on you here in these future races because heck of a debut start here for you tonight. And I guess since I'm asking everyone else the question, let's say hypothetically we did have that late race restart. Do you think you could have pulled out a win here tonight?
I definitely would have tried. I feel like I had pretty good short run speed. I might have made kind of a crazy move there. I was thinking about it during that green flag run. There was no one around me. I was like, man, if a caution came out here, it might do something crazy. But I think Garrett was really fast. Definitely way faster than me on the long run. Same thing with Brian. So I think if anyone deserved to win tonight, it was definitely Garrett. So, but I think I would have tried something if a caution came out.
Good deal. Well, it's definitely fun watching you run out here tonight and still managing to get a podium to your name in your first ever start. So before I let you go and celebrate here tonight, the microphone is all yours. Who you want to thank for making things happen?
I want to thank Jason for running the league, you for the broadcast, all the drivers for showing up and putting on a pretty good race. Garrett Hess for inviting me to the league, and Brian as well for some pretty good racing.
Good deal. Well, thank you for coming out here tonight. Congratulations on the podium, and I look forward to seeing you here in future races.
All right, thank you.
You heard it here first, race fans. Your top 3 finishers here tonight: Garrett Hess, Brian Sabelski, and Eduardo Muniz Jr. But of course, those weren't the only drivers present in tonight's event. So how about we take a look down at our unofficial race results as they stand? Should they be willing to come up? There we go. So of course, aside from your top 3 here, it was Johnny Bell back in the 4th position, up +7 from where he qualified, the most improved driver on the speedway, but also the first driver to finish not on the lead lap. Then back in 5th, it's going to be Michael Sparks in the Mooselander Racing number 42 to round out your top 5 here this evening. Back in 6th, it's going to be Derek Murphy in the 78, followed by the CZ Robotics 24 of Corey Logan back in 7th. The 7 Hello Kivy entry of Kevin Alicia back in 8th, with Daniel Sparks back in 9th and Mark Kluge rounding out the top 10 here this evening. Then back in 11th, we got the Fried Chicken Motorsports 712 of John Atkins, followed by the 188 for the hobby entry of Joshua Rudolph. And then all the way back in 13th, going to be the number 93 of Jason Gardner. That said, that's just about all we've got here tonight at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. Definitely been a heck of a race here this evening. And with that, we will be going into the second half of the season coming up after this race, starting with Irwindale Speedway. Oh, all the way over in California, by the way. We're going all the way across country for this one. That said, thank you all for tuning in here tonight, and I look forward to seeing you all next time. Have a good evening, race fans.